My friends, what we're about to see now isn't an escalation, it's the beginning of the end. The geopolitical chessboard of the Middle East has just been overturned with a violence we haven't seen since the turn of the century. And if you thought diplomacy was going to solve the Gulf crisis, you were deceived. The ceasefire was torn up in public. And right now, July 9th, 2026, the images coming in confirm the global market's worst nightmare. 170 Iranian military targets have been methodically pulverized over the past 48 hours. Orange fireballs are lighting up the coast of Iran. It's the most brutal and lethal attack the region has ever witnessed. And in response, Iran crossed the last remaining red line. They didn't just target commercial ships. They tried to sink the greatest symbol of military power projection on the face of the earth. My friends, pay close attention to what's happening behind the scenes in Washington and the Pentagon. The mainstream media is in shock, but we're going to dissect the engineering of this war right now. To understand this issue, you need to remember an expression. We're going to call this the strike of the decaying beast. Iran is not a rising power. The Ayatollah's regime is a mortally wounded beast, suffocated by the economy and by sanctions. And a decaying beast, when it realizes its last days have come, tries to bite with the fangs it still has left, and the strike was suicidal. It all started when Iran, completely ignoring the negotiations they themselves requested, broke the agreement by attacking commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. They thought the American government would hesitate, and the response from the United States Central Command, CENTCOM, was a plan of annihilation. On the first night, 80 targets were destroyed. On the second night, another 90. 160 military bases wiped off the map, and the attack package expanded geographically like a lethal cancer for the regime. In Iran, Chahar, Bandar Shah, Bandar Abbas, Counterattack, Bushehr, and the most critical of all, Shambahar. Shambahar is not just a port. It's Iran's only deep-water port with direct access to the Indian Ocean. It's the only maritime exit that bypasses the Strait of Hormuz. CENTCOM is not just defending the waterway. The Americans are surgically and methodically eliminating all the naval options that the Revolutionary Guard has. Coastal city by coastal city. And to do this, the Pentagon has opened the gates of technological hell. The tools of this destruction are not secret, but their combined force is apocalyptic. The skies of Iran were dominated by the workhorse of the American Air Force. The F-15E Strike Eagle, a machine designed to fly low and fast in highly defended airspace. And they unleashed a rain of GBU-31 JDAM bombs. We're talking about 907-kilogram, 2,000-pound warheads guided by satellite. Bombs designed to crack reinforced concrete bunkers like they were eggshells. And right after that, the F-16s took the lead. The job of the wild weasels is one of the most dangerous in the world. They go into enemy territory serving as bait. They get the radars to light up so that the Iranian anti-air defenses like the S-300 variants try to stop them. When the enemy missile battery turns on its radar, the F-16 tracks the signal and fires anti-radiation missiles, destroying the threat in seconds. And that cleared the way for the F-18 Super Hornets, which took off at full speed from the aircraft carriers positioned in the region. Agile fighter jets that worked like scalpels, attacking targets of opportunity, and coastal defense missile batteries. And of course, the Arleigh Burke-class destroyers joined the game, firing the signature weapon of the US Navy. The Tomahawk cruise missiles with a range of over 1,600 kilometers, flying less than 30 meters above the waves. Undetectable to Iranian radars, which were calibrated for high-altitude threats. While the large fighter jets dominated the skies, the MQ-9 Reaper drones swept over the water, sinking the fast attack boats with Hellfire missiles. But this is exactly where our metaphor, the lunge of the dying beast, reaches its dark climax. When the Iranian generals saw their radar bases melting and their ports collapsing, they understood that the end had come. The suffocation was complete. The Treasury Department, the United States Treasury, tightened the noose. They revoked the general license that allowed Iran to legitimately sell oil. The regime's only multi-billion-dollar revenue stream was frozen overnight. With no money, no access to the sea, and humiliated on the battlefield, Iran made the worst military decision of the 21st century. The cornered beast bit the tip of the spear. Tehran pressed the red button and gave the order to start what could be the trigger for World War III. During an hour of absolute terror and global silence, the Iranian regime launched a coordinated swarm of 111 cruise and ballistic missiles, 111 projectiles concentrated on a single point in the sea. And the target? The Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, the colossal USS Abraham Lincoln. Pay close attention to the sheer gravity of this attack. Trying to sink an American aircraft carrier is not a guerrilla tactic. It is a formal declaration of annihilation against the American nation. The USS Abraham Lincoln is not a ship. It is a floating airbase powered by nuclear reactors. We're talking about the largest and most lethal warship in naval history. 100,000 tons of displacement. 332 meters long. A machine capable of sailing at more than 56 kilometers per hour across the ocean, carrying over 90 combat aircraft. But above all, the Abraham Lincoln carries 5,000 American lives on board, 5,000 sailors, pilots, and technicians. If any of those 111 missiles got past the Aegis defense shield and hit the reactors or the flight deck full of fuel and ammunition, the casualties would be counted in the thousands. This desperate act, this rain of fire against the aircraft carrier, unleashed the full fury of the United States. This critical event was officially confirmed by President Donald Trump in front of the wide-eyed global leaders during the NATO summit. The Atlantic Alliance immediately backed off and signaled, "We see what you're doing." The Western world understood that the Americans gave every possible chance for Iran to open international routes and act like a rational nation. And the regime's response was to attempt to massacre 5,000 Marines. And while they tried to bring down the giant of the seas, Iran's tactical cowardice was manifesting itself on other fronts. They don't have the capability to invade neighboring countries by land, so they opened Pandora's box of aerial terrorism. The Revolutionary Guard launched swarms of Shahed 136 kamikaze drones not against United States military bases, but against strictly civilian targets. They attacked residential apartment buildings, hotels, and international airports in strategic Gulf partner countries. Terror rained down on Bahrain, on Kuwait, and on Qatar. They targeted the innocent civilian heart of the Arab world to create panic and fury. They forced the Gulf monarchies to beg Washington for mercy. It was always Iran's move to pressure the allies to push Trump to stop the war. Look at the level of institutional psychopathy. While drones packed with explosives were flying toward residential buildings, Iranian diplomats were desperately on the phones. President Trump reported from inside Air Force One that the Iranian leadership was making frantic calls trying to buy time, begging to return to the negotiating table, claiming they wanted a deal. It has always been pure mafia-style politics, one finger on the trigger and the other hand waving the white flag of false peace. The main negotiator himself and president of the Iranian parliament, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibafi, went public while the wreckage was still falling from the sky to spew his self-serving narrative. He said, "America still hasn't learned that bullying no longer comes at zero cost. If you attack, you will be hit." He capped off the threat by stating that the Strait of Hormuz will only be opened under Iran's orders and not under American threats. Iran's Ministry of Foreign Affairs went further, calling the American retaliation a serious war crime and the United States administration psychopathic and evil. Mohammad Ghalibafi, chief military advisor to the supreme leader, warned that the Americans would suffer severe punishment. But the ones suffering severe punishment and internal collapse are not the Americans. The command structure of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard is melting down. The regime's generals and admirals are being systematically eliminated in such a humiliating way that the international intelligence community even mocks the fake names and cover-ups Iran creates for their accidental deaths. The once feared leader of the Revolutionary Guard Navy, nicknamed and ridiculed behind the scenes for his lack of strategic ability and who became famous for running completely out of attack boats after the Santikon operations, has been eliminated. Another regional commander, mocked as being responsible for the failed attacks, died in an accidental explosion by the side of a road. And while frontline admirals like the army chief Atesh General Salami watch the country burn, the supreme leader of the shadows himself is a ghost. Mojtaba Khamenei has been missing, invisible to the public eye, for 130 days. No one knows for sure who holds the pen, who has the red button, or who is signing the death sentences of the entire militia itself. Some even say that he died a long time ago. My friends, this is the biggest and most significant military confrontation of the last 48 hours, far surpassing the massive escalation that took place on February 28th. And if you think the chaos in the world is limited to the Middle East, pay attention to the global update we're bringing you now. Because while Iran was going up in flames on July 8th and 9th, Eastern Europe was getting a taste of deep strike fire. Ukraine launched the deepest, boldest, and most aggressive campaign of attacks in the entire conflict against Russian infrastructure. Ukrainian intelligence orchestrated a massive attack with suicide drones that pulverized 3 gigantic oil refineries on Russian territory. The boldness was such that they hit the AMS refinery, located far beyond the defensive lines in the heart of the rural hills. They set fire to 2 large Russian oil tankers. In the restricted waters of the Sea of Azov, they demolished pipeline pumping stations that are the lifeblood of Moscow's war machine. Ukraine took off the gloves and showed that the war has definitely been brought to Putin's doorstep, hitting the most unlikely target inside Russia, Siberia. There's no safe place left for Putin to hide. Now pay close attention to what I'm about to tell you, because what's at stake now is the defense of our territory. The traditional system and the old media love to promote emptiness, superficiality, and shallow narratives to alienate the population. But we've built something completely different here. We've formed a community of elite analysts. Real people who seek the truth and see the inner workings of power. And because of our commitment to substance and never lowering our level of analysis, we've just been nominated for the iBeste Award in the Political Influencer category. This is the time, my friends, the exact moment to show the raw strength our community has. This isn't about personal vanity. No, no, no. This is a demonstration of the strength and power of our community. It's time to prove to the algorithm and the market that deep, technical, and cold analysis has a strong army behind it. Well, the official link to vote is here in the description and in the first pinned comment. I'm calling on you now. Stop what you're doing, click the link, cast your vote, and show the overwhelming strength of our community. And one more thing, you can vote 3 times every day. My friends, our mission is to be among the top 10 biggest political influencers in Brazil. And guess what? In less than 24 hours, we reached first place in total votes, and we've already made it into the top 20 biggest political influencers in Brazil. So, I'm counting on you, my community. Now let's go back and wrap up the strategic picture of this war in the Middle East. The supreme leader of Iran is a ghost. We've already talked about that. The naval infrastructure was wiped out in 48 hours. The colossal attack of 111 missiles against the aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln failed. The oil money was blocked. And President Trump has already made it clear at the NATO summit. He doesn't even know if there's any reason to accept a deal with Tehran now. He openly said that maybe it's time to finish the job. Who are the Americans going to negotiate with? With a cardboard Ayatollah? With the generals of a mafia militia who launched drones at civilian buildings while begging for mercy on the phone? This is the inescapable outcome of institutional corruption turned into military strategy. And now I'm going to ask you who are following us and seeing this war of narratives to participate actively. What we're seeing in the Gulf is the collapse of a rotten power project. If you agree with our reading of this scenario, go to the comments and type today's verdict. Type now, the collapse of the malnourished hyena. Yes, my friends, it's a hyena. I repeat, the collapse of the malnourished hyena. That's exactly what the Tehran regime is suffering after crossing the line with American power. Now make the algorithm understand the intellectual level of our community. The decaying beast made its suicidal strike. And now the weapons of CENTCOM will dictate the rules of mourning. The beacon is still lit. And that's, my friends, because Israel hasn't even resumed the attacks yet. And have you noticed that Iran hasn't attacked Israel directly again? Why is that, huh? My friends, now pay attention to this. Iran's military leadership collapsed because they made a belated assessment of the situation and projected weak authority to the world. In the business market, the punishment is exactly the same. Today, the most valuable currency that exists is people's attention. And for the entrepreneur, what hurts the most is being the best nutritionist, doing the work and not being seen. You have a top-level product, exceptional service, but nobody knows you exist because your positioning is invisible. Have you noticed how hard it is to get people to consume serious and in-depth content on social media? It seems like the algorithm is made only for silly dances and ridiculous memes to go viral, and meanwhile, your knowledge gets drowned out. I used to think the same way. But 15 years ago when I started in radio and television, I understood one non-negotiable principle. True authority depends mainly on substantial content and a solid media strategy. And it's with this exact method that today we generate over 50 million views per month on social media. An elite audience with a business 100% monetized in dollars. It's not just about view numbers. It's the money that also comes back. And we never had to do a single dance. Many entrepreneurs want to have their business recognized, but they still haven't realized that the game has changed. Take Cimedio, for example. They tripled their sales because this medicine company understood that they needed to become a media company. The reality at Y-Crew is that your identity can't be outsourced. You need to put yourself out there and guide your business's vision. The days are over when you could record shaky videos on your phone with no authority and still make sales. The market now demands killer professionalism. If you want to have higher margins, serve better clients, and access exclusive spaces, I created a hands-on immersive program to guide you. On July 12th, and the deadline is now, I will hold this immersive program 100% in person, locked in with me in my studio here in Curitiba. It will be a restricted meeting with only 10 people. I will guide you in building your authority, but there are only 10 seats. When all of them are filled, registration closes. Point your phone at the QR code that's appearing on your screen or access the secure link in the video description and in the first pinned comment. Don't miss the opportunity to break out of the bubble that's holding you back. And stop wasting time trying to choose a good movie or a good series to watch on Netflix, Amazon, or whatever your streaming package is. We've solved this problem. You spend hours trying to find something, and in the end, it was a total piece of crap, and even worse, full of woke nonsense and whining. Well, we created our own channel about series and movies with tips on what to watch over the weekend without wasting time. So the link is in the description, in the pinned comment, and in the card that will appear on your screen. Everything we've talked about regarding Iran, guys, is going to become a Hollywood movie, and it will be wonderful. Who would be the main actor, huh? Comment here. Now subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, leave a like because it takes work to do this. My friends, shield your mind. I'm Shimon Oliveira. See you in the next video.